Hi, it's Bridget. This is sort of a vlog, but it's also a public service announcement for all of us dealing with the end of the year, the holidays, the family stuff, the school stuff, the work stuff, all of it. So we're going to talk about the intensity of things. Okay, we might do a little bit of an energetic awareness report here. So we all manage our stressors at different levels throughout our lives, right? And throughout our years. We have different seasons of our lives, just like we have different seasons to the year. Sometimes we're in alignment with the school schedule, like the fall into the spring. Other times we are in alignment with actual season change schedules. Other times maybe it's you're a snowbird and you're half one place, half another place. And over the course of our lifetimes, we start to look at things, at least from my perspective, being in my fourth decade of life, that kind of in chunks of time, like decades is an easy way to look at things, or 5-year increments, for example. So the reason I say all this is because we have different ways that we look at our lives, where we can understand how we're feeling at any given chunk of time that we're looking at. And right now, there's a lot of energetic stuff that's happening external. Everything outward is really having a deeper, more broader impact on us personally. And I am noticing that within myself for the last 6 months. I've been working deep on a deep inward spiritual journey, kind of like something I was literally just propelled. I feel like I was slingshotted into in June, actually right around the solstice time. Although it began before that, long before that, about a year before that. However, I can see this intense time of deep change with deep inner work happening about the last 6 months. And so now we're coming up to a solstice. So in winter, there is, here where I live in the United States, there is the solstice on the 21st, where I'm at in my time zone. And that means the longest day of darkness, or the shortest daylight of the entire year, is on that day. And when my journey, the deeper in, the slingshotted kind of vibe, right in journey, started for me on the right around the summer solstice. And so that was the longest day of light. So it's like this balancing kind of yin yang energy coming up. I feel like this is intentional, that right now at this time, people, you are feeling more deeply things that we have been able to manage in the past, like family relationship stuff, holiday stuff, job stuff, coworker stuff. Everything is so amplified and people are so on high alert, heightened alert, hyper vigilant, that all the empathic people, you, myself included, we are hyper aware of our connections and relationships. So relationships are intensified, and maybe to an abnormal, not just abnormal, but unrealistic level. Yes, unrealistic. So you might be feeling extra pressures or stressors on your relationships. This shows up in being short-tempered with people, different kinds of mood shifts you might notice in other people, or the way that their behavior changes. And maybe it's not drastic, maybe it's subtle, but enough where you notice. Maybe eating habits change, sleeping habits change. It looks like people are displaying more depression tendencies and anxiety tendencies. And in part, that's because we are collectively, that depression energy and anxiety energy is just becoming part of our landscape in all of our experiences, which means all of our expressions, which means in our interpersonal relationships, we're going to notice this in other people. If we don't notice it in ourselves already, we're going to notice it in other people. Now, for me, I had a heightened awareness of this just today. The last couple of days, actually, I have one of my kids that is having a real struggle with going to school. All of a sudden, it seems like all of a sudden, but I know when I look back, just like on my own journey, I can see other signs, examples, heads ups about this. And there's not a particular instance or any kind of particular issue specifically, just the overall landscape of the heaviness. Now, I'm going to share with you, when I said energetically, there is a heaviness that is affecting everyone right now. It's not just you, it's not just your family, it's not just your boss, etc. It is literally it's like a fog. It looks like a fog, but it's a heavy energy feeling, a blanket. Now, a lot of people who've experienced grief or loss will struggle, or people who have mental health awareness of mental health diagnoses and tendencies will recognize that during this time of year, at the end of the year, there's just this extra struggle anyway. Now it seems intensified. And it's not just you, so you're not going crazy. Sorry, I'm just starting to wrestle with a little bit of a cold, I think. Don't worry, I got all my booster stuff, all that stuff. I should be good, we'll see. But my family is also dealing with some sickness right now. My spouse actually has a bad cold thing. And my youngest, who is the one that's struggling right now with school stuff, with even just wanting to go to school, it has also had like cold, but now it's better. So I share that because the emphasis on the health consciousness about health is really a stressor. So if somebody gets a cold, everybody looks at you like, oh, or everybody says, oh, no, it's nothing big. It's just fine. It's cold. And then they sound horrible, like they're literally at death's door. And really, they should be getting a test for something else, but they're not, because they don't want to be down for 2 weeks and they don't want to have all this stuff affected and all this stuff, right? So there's all this stressor pressure around the health scenarios that is adding to this heaviness. Even if it's not spoken, even if you're not consciously aware of it, even if it's not affecting you personally or your family or your work, et cetera, or the schools, which it's affecting all the schools. So if you have a kid in a school or you work in a school, you can't not be affected. Or if you read the community paper, you cannot be not affected. Or if you listen to the news at all, you cannot not be affected, right? So there's a lot of extra pressure stressors this year that is different than last year. I know last year was the time when we didn't see people. This year we're seeing people, but we're seeing people who are in all this variety of impact in regards to the intensity of energy as a whole. And it's demonstrated as depression or anxiety. So things are starting to show up, and topics are starting to show up, like eating stuff like, why did I say eating? Because healthy eating, because that's where it's showing up for me. Healthy eating, like it's almost like I just don't care about that, but I do care. But it's like, oh, like things that I would normally do to take care of myself, I'm not making a priority, because there's this heaviness that causes everything to be more in slow motion, like walking through mud, thick mud, instead of being able to kind of flow and move freely. And so everything seems harder, but it's not because there's like something majorly wrong with you. It's because legitimately things are harder right now. It's more difficult energetically, regardless of how that displays for you. So I wanted to share that because I think it's important for you to understand that, number one, you're not alone. You might feel very alone, because I do. I know I do. I feel like nobody gets it, not nobody gets it, but nobody, like in my personal connected circles, gets it to the extent that I feel it. But that's not really true, right? Because really everybody's feeling it, but people are articulating it or talking about it in different ways. And some people aren't talking about it. They're just stuffing it in, and it's showing up as being a workaholic or being short-tempered, or maybe overeating or overindulging in other things like alcohol, or, just other things, right? So, because it definitely affects your focus, let's say it that way. The intensity of energy and this heaviness definitely affects your focus. And again, I'm going to say this again, it shows up as like a depression kind of symptoms and as anxiety. So either or both, depending upon who you are and how you respond as an empath to energy. Okay. So my big question is like, what can we do about this? And so what I've noticed is, I'm no expert at this. Talking about it is really, really helpful with somebody who gets it. And by what I mean by somebody who gets it is, I mean that somebody who cares about you, a friend, someone really close to you, maybe a sibling. We can really talk through stuff where they're not trying to fix you, right? Where they're not trying to fix you, because that's frustrating. Somebody tries to fix you, it assumes like there's something wrong with you because you have feelings. Feelings are normal. We just aren't used to processing them out loud. We always stuff them so everybody around us feels better. Well, it's time to start talking to each other, not to dump on each other, to say, here, fix this, and not to show up and say, okay, tell me all your problems and I'm going to fix them, because then I don't have to deal with my own. Because I definitely have a friend or two that's like that. That's like, oh yeah, everything's so great with them, and then it's like, they're so willing to hear about your stuff. And yet at the same time, you know that they have their own stuff, their own crap, and they're just like so not interested in dealing with it. So then it doesn't give you a whole lot of confidence that they're really willing to deal with yours either, in a healthy way, like to really help you, because it has to be authentic, right? So you need to be able to talk about it. That's the first part, right? With somebody that you trust. Sometimes that's a life coach, let me just say. I am that safe place for people for sure. And actually that's a really great part of the work that I do, is to get to support people through their journey of recognizing that your feelings and emotions are natural, they're normal, and there's nothing wrong with you. You just get the opportunity to express, so that then you can focus on the things in your life that really bring you joy. And sometimes you can't even get to the joyful moments or the happy stuff because you're so bogged down by so much heavy-hearted energy. And so I help people navigate that. So I am that for some people. So maybe a life coach could help you. A counselor, I do see a counselor like twice a month, usually my usual, to have support. I also do talk to a life coach at least once a month. It's been a couple of weeks actually. Oh no, it hasn't. Yeah, about 2 weeks since I talked to one, but so life coach. And I have a couple of different types of coaches to focus on different things that I need assistance with or support from. And then, but I recognize not everybody can afford that kind of investment as well. And let me just be clear. It's not like I'm living here like all rolling in the dough. However, I make time for what really matters, because if I didn't do sessions like that, I wouldn't be able to function. Okay. I would be an empath that just has excuses and blames other people for my crap, and wouldn't be able to show up and focus and do something positive, make a contribution for my family, my personal relationships, and my work. I wouldn't be here probably if I didn't do that. So talking to someone, no matter what that looks like, whether you have to pay to do it or not, that's really helpful. I find that personally helpful, because then I hear myself talk about it, right? If you can't do that, grab a journal. I'm looking to see, oh, mine's a little farther away. I can't reach it quite now, but grab a journal and use a journal, because you can process at least for yourself. Okay. Because it does help to get the thoughts out of the head and onto the paper, so that you can at least feel lighter, just to data dump and get the information out. Because really, your feelings turn into thoughts sometimes, instead of the thoughts turning into feelings. Sometimes it works both ways. But in my experience, when my feelings kind of take over my thoughts, it creates a lot of story, a lot of recycled old stories, and it doesn't help me at all. It makes me feel worse. So it contributes back to negative feelings, when I just need to be heard, emotionally heard. So if I write or journal, sometimes it can get some of that stuff out of my head onto a paper, and I don't have to reread it. That's not why I do it, but just to get it out, to lighten up the load here, the flow in the mind, to keep the mind clear and free, because it needs to be. Because there's enough natural organic thoughts that can derail you. There's enough negative thoughts that come up that make you feel like you're not enough already, right? So you don't need evidence for that, because it doesn't really exist. You're just creating a story. So journaling can help to clear, to lighten your load on your mind. It can also provide you with reflection if you do intuitive writing. It can also give you some actual guidance from your soul. So if you're writing to connect with your spirit, to get some guidance, you formulate a question and then respond to the question however it feels. And what you'll notice is, if you write a question down and you start to respond to it, you're going to respond maybe with your mind first, because usually your brain always has to have its 2 cents first. And it's really basically all it's worth is 2 cents. And then you drop into your heart and you start to identify the emotions. And then eventually you'll shift into the voice of your soul, which is very unbiased. It's very matter of fact. It's quiet. It's pretty succinct and specific. So you'll get guidance from yourself if you do that. But you have to wait through the mind and the heart to get to the soul energetically. That's just been the process that I've had when I'm trying to get guidance from myself. From myself, for myself, from myself and for myself. Okay. So a journal can be really helpful in both of those ways as well. So those are just really 2 simple things. And then you can use all sorts of other tools, like sensory tools, like rocks and crystals, or I'm looking to see if I have any handy. They're on the other side of my table and I don't want to get up and try to reach to grab them. Rocks and crystals can help to physically touch something or set up a grid. to help amplify energy. So you feel like you're doing something to contribute because you are energetically acknowledging the energy of a situation, circumstance, thought, feeling, or emotion. It helps to either clear or clarify or attract energy that's more well suited for you, better suited for you for the time, more healthy, more focused in a positive way. Also, you could use cards or card decks. We do that here on Fairy Grasshopper channel to be able to help stay or shift into, either stay in a positive energy light or shift into a flow of energy that is a movement of energy that is gentle or supportive or maybe encouraging, uplifting, whatever you might need. You can also use them for clarity. So cards or card decks, which I list below in the links below. There's a variety of them. I think Denise Linn's are the best to start off with. Sacred Traveler is one of the ones that I think it's a really great card deck. I have this one. This one we use a lot. These are the purple cards. I refer to the purple cards. That's what these are. So it's a great one. It's linked below. All right. There are a lot of other tools as well. You just have to have a variety so that in the moment, depending upon the energy that you're really feeling the most intense with, that you have a variety of things that you can grab something that fits that. There's also a technique for healing called EFT, Emotional Freedom Technique, or tapping, that you can look into. I also have links to that here on Fairy Grasshopper that I've done myself to help support my kind of flow process. That's a really good way to get the brain and thought stuff. If you have like negative thoughts and stuff, or if you're dealing with something physical, I think anxiety wise, that was something that really helped me a few years ago when I had so much anxiety. I really had just such a struggle with it. A couple of years back, it was really intense for me. So intense, really bad. Yeah. I used EFT and tapping, and it really helped. It made a huge difference with the stress, with my mood. It really helped. Tapping EFT. All right. There's a couple of different resources. You can do tappingsolution.com. You can check that out. You can do Tapping with Brad on YouTube. Great videos. I love Brad's stuff. Great. Tapping with Brad on YouTube. You can do that as well. There's a whole host of other things you can do and utilize in your toolkit or as a strategy in order to help you. But the most important thing, I guess, is to be as gentle and kind to yourself as you would be to someone you love, because you should love yourself and you should act like you love yourself. So I know our patience can run thin, and we can just feel like we're already dealing with a lot. And then something comes up, like with my kid, and it's easy to go like to the 10 from 0 to 10, like really fast. And I'm actually surprised that I haven't gone to 10. I'm more like the middle of the 5-ish area, but because we'll have to navigate this, like this is a thing, and it's a very real thing. So I really want to honor the feelings and the energy and the emotion, but also then I need strategies, which the tools come in. So that's basically what I'm working through right now in that scenario or situation too. Well, at the same time, dealing with my own stuff, and I got a lot of stuff. And we always do. There's always something to be working on or working toward or working through. That's normal. That's life. That's why you get help. That's why you need support. That's why you have tools. Use them. Use them. That's what they're here for. So this is Bridget. I hope I've inspired your spirit, filled you with some hope today, at least encouraged you today in this conversation about the energy intenseness, the intense energy that we're all feeling and experiencing at this time. It will get better. Hang in there. All right. It's your life after all, and you get to live it. So just live it. Do the best you can. I'm happy to support you along the way. Thanks for watching.